the live stream has started. I would like to say good afternoon to us all once again. And it's an amazing opportunity we have here, and we're going to make the best, of it. So the live stream has started. I would like to say good afternoon to give me a minute, us all once again. All right. So today we are doing the GPPQE-In-Focus. It's the most it has been anticipated for a while, and now the time is here. Before we go into that, I'd just like to say something real quick. Life is all about setting goals and trying to achieve these goals. And for pharmacy students, for some pharmacy students, those who are about competing and those who are about to step into their clinical rotations, it's a goal that we have, or that you have, to have a particular level of success with regards to writing your final exams and doing amazingly well. And that is good, because life is all about knowing your wants and your needs and trying to find ways to give yourself those wants or needs. It could be your basic needs, it could be your social needs, it could be your need for security, and above all, your need to give yourself what you want, your need to be important, your need to find purpose, your need to have a particular level of accomplishment. And that is what brings us exactly to this point, because it means that there is something that has to be done. There is a way that time has to be used so that eventually we can get to that part where we're able to accomplish what we want and need for ourselves. Just to quite explain that, you would agree with me that in the next few months, those who have the GPQE this year will be writing, and in the next year, which is about 12 months, those are having that for the GPQ 2026 to be writing. So it means that what is just standing between you and you achieving a particular goal is just time. It's time. Time is measured in seconds, it's measured in minutes, and it culminates into hours, into days, into weeks, and then into months. And so it's about you using the hours you have to get what you want. And that is why we are here. Today we're going to be learning from those particular people who have been able to apply strategies, who have been able to, control, master their time. We'll be learning from them how they did it and how they were able to get to the point that we also want to get to. So without saying much, I would like to introduce my guests. Before that, from Michael is currently at a meeting, and as soon as he's done, he'll be joining us. And then the same goes for Andrews as well. But in the meantime, we have here with us Pharm, Dr. Maxwell. Dr. Maxwell, please, can we hear from you? Please say hi to us.
Hello. Hi.
Okay. So Pharm Dr. Maxwell is one person who has an initiative and has been mentoring students on how to prepare for GPQ. In fact, I'm one person who had the privilege to be under his tutelage, and I learned so much. And so we deem it an opportunity for him to also come and speak to us all and to introduce us to all the concepts and the tips we need to know. So from Maxwell, we are happy to have you here. We also have with us here founder Maame Aidoo. Please, Miss Aidoo, come from you. Can you say hi to us?
Hi.
Okay. Thank you so much for making the time. So Miss Aidoo was the overall best candidate for GPQE 2024. In fact, we have lots of questions. We are coming to that. And aside that, she's into digital marketing, and she's into health policy making and all that has to do with health initiatives. We are glad to have you here. So when the other speakers join us, then I'll introduce them. Okay, so we're going straight into the entire plan. So I think the first question we all have in our mind, let's just cut to the chase. Let's just cut to the chase. Miss Aidoo, how did you do it? That's just one question I think that's popping up in our minds. Like when we hear Miss Aidoo, overall best GPQ 2024, the first question in our mind is, wow, how did she do it? So please help us and ease our pain a little and tell us how did you do it, basically. What's that secret? What's that secret that you think was it for you?
Well, that's quite a packed question. It sounds very simple, but I mean, it takes months because the journey took even years, right?
Yeah.
But I would say one word that I would describe it would be consistency. So consistency first, from a place of faith, because I'm a person of faith. I believe in God, and I believe that He's the one who orchestrates every aspect of my life. So consistency with God, understanding what is His will for me, even when it comes to my academics, and then letting that flow into my studies. So consistency in my studies. If the goal is to finish pharmacy school and be a qualified pharmacist, then right from level 100, I have to study to show myself approved, do all that is required of me to understand the concepts so that I can apply them to real world situations. Um, the journey is not always smooth, and I believe we all can testify. Pharmacy school
Yeah.
is quite tough. A long number of years full of chemistry, drawings, and stuff that you have to adjust to. Then now you have to learn
Yeah.
pharmacology. There's
Mm-hmm.
always so much information, and you may be tempted to give up. But once you remember why you started, why you chose pharmacy or why pharmacy chose you, because for some people pharmacy chose them, right? And then you stick with it. The goal is to, like
Yeah.
you were saying, the only thing that is between now and passing the exam is time. So the goal is, how do I make the best use of my time so that I can be able to pass? So really, that was what I did. Kept studying, kept, I mean, working with God, worked with the right group of people to would encourage you to keep going. There were days when I felt like I didn't know anything because the people around me seem to have it all figured out. Even with GPPQE, they seem to know. I mean, the format, how many questions are we going to answer, what aspect it covers, and all of that. And at that point, I knew nothing, but I learned from them. So, also surrounding yourself with people who are equally determined. I mean, all of those little things come together, and today we see the end goal. But really, it's been a whole journey. So I'll end
Yeah.
here and
Yeah.
then
Don't
hand
worry,
over.
we'll go into specifics. And I'm glad. I think we have a general overview so far, and it's amazing. And then speaking about the format, I think this question will go to Dr. Maxwell. We generally we hear rumors about what the format can be. I don't mean for GPQE specifically, but starting from you're at home and you're called to go for your rotations. What happens? Like, what's the entire process up to GPQE? What happens in between? Like, what's the entire format? Not just specifically for GPQE, but the journey. Of course, as soon as you start clinical rotations, what's the next step? What's the next? And then what's the next till the GPQ exam? So what's the timeline in between? So Dr. Maxwell, please let's hear from you on this.
Okay, so you first start your clinical rotation. You are supposed to do, I think, six rotations. Each is supposed to
Okay.
be 6 weeks. You're supposed to do 6 weeks for each rotation. So after this 36 weeks clinical rotation, you will be required by your school. Some schools, please can you hear?
Yeah, I can.
Some schools don't write the uh, department exams. So when you are done with the 36 weeks, the next thing will be to preparation to AKA. The 36 weeks is solely and mostly but for GPP, you will be required to also answer some law and policy. So usually some people or most people start learning the and policy after their so when pharmacy council tell you exams, you'll be preparing towards GPPQE. I've answered the question.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, so back to what I was saying about time, using time in between, whether you have whether you have rotations before you get to that particular point. Um, then it means to be a factor of, like, even Miss Aidoo said, and even with Maxwell's answer, you see that with timing, mastering time has to come in how you use time and how you control it together. And so to further explain this, or to further guide our discussion, we'll be using the model of time. It simply explains the particular aspect, to pay attention to mindset aspect of it. From the mindset aspect of it. And so the first question I would like to find out is, I think for Miss Aidoo, this question goes to you. What do you think is a particular way? What do you think our mindset should be? Like, when I say what do you think our mindset should be, I mean, life is about our beliefs. Our beliefs end up holding us down. What do you think is one mindset shift that you think students who intend to prepare even for this year's exam, and those who intend to prepare for next year's, what's this mindset shift you recommend, yes, for us? Basically, I want to just hear your thoughts on what you think our mindset should be with regards to setting our goals towards achieving the GPQE excellence and all.
So for mindset, I'll say that you should set your mind to achieve the prize, right? So to pass the exam, that's the basic. Pass your exam. You've been in school for 6 years, and you have to write this one exam that lasts less than 3 hours to move to the next step. When you get there, a lot of things may happen. You may feel inferior. You may have had something happen in your life personally that may want to draw you back. You may have people who don't believe in you that you can make it. But one thing in life is that you should always know that there's nothing that's new under the sun. People wrote this exam and they passed, which means that you can also pass. However, some people also failed. So if you also joke, you can fail. But set your mind on the fact that you want to write the exam once and for all. So just put in your best. And then after you've passed the exam, you can have all the fun you want, meet all the people you want, catch up with all the people you want to catch up with. So I would say the mindset should really be, I want to write this once and for all. I want to pass and be able to move on to the next step of my life. You just do all that possibly you can do and leave the rest to God. And then that should be how we should go about the GPPQE preparation.
All right. So the mindsets, you just have to look at the fact that if others have done it before, and this is also a fact that is most determining for my life. And if others have done it before, then I can do it. I think we get the entire story, the entire point we're trying to make from that. And one thing I would say is that researching about what time is all about, how we can make time and use time to achieve what we want, is something that has become more of like a research for me. Sometimes like a life research for me. And that has motivated me even to, put in much effort into identifying what works, what strategies work, what is that particular system that can be incorporated into getting the things we want. And so recently, for a particular thesis I was putting together, I was for the entire period, I was, working on the principle of understanding how one person's belief to be able to use time and control time effectively can affect another person. And after that particular research, I came to understand that indeed there is there's a direct link between one person's ability to master time and another person's ability to master time, and as soon as these people are in your particular environment. And so this brings me to the question: when we step out there, once we are preparing and once we are doing our clinical rotations, like you said, you were lucky and you were a chance to meet great people that were able to guide you. What of in the situation where we are in the situation where we find that people in our environment are kind of, throwing us down, they put us in that situation where we don't know what we really want for ourselves. We don't get the encouragement we seek from them. How do we coordinate this kind of vibes in our environment to prevent us from losing track of what we really want and to continue to motivate us ourselves, particularly to put in the effort to achieve the goal we want to achieve at the end of the day? So how do we handle these vibes altogether? So I think this question will go to Ms. Aidoo, just as a follow-up to what you said earlier.
So when it comes to motivation, I mean, people can say all the words they want to say. At the end of the day, it is what you pick from it and what you choose to apply to your life. So really, you should be self-motivated. That's where you should start from. You should know where you are coming from and what you want to attain or what you want to achieve. Um, in that way, no matter what anybody around you thinks, you have seen the vision and you know what you are running with. So you are able to keep on running, even if other people around you are giving you like the negative vibe. And then you are not meant to like stay in that circle if that circle is not fruitful to you. Find those who believe in the things you believe in. Find those whom you believe you can support. And by so doing, you can also get some support from them. And then build a network that would help you thrive. So that's what I can say to that.
Okay. All right. I think very much understood. And I think from what you said, what I took from it is your ability to self-motivate yourself. So it means at that point in life, you're no longer going to focus on external motivation, but the ability to believe and motivate your own self. And then that brings me to the next question. Now, when from what Maxwell mentioned earlier, it's like a whole process. So whilst you're doing your clinical rotations, you're preparing for your departmental exams, and then soon after that, GPQE comes in. So it means that it's like you have to balance preparing for your departmental exams, doing well in your clinical rotation, as well as looking forward to also acing the GPQE. So this question goes to Maxwell. So how do you think we can balance this? Like, I mean, still talking about motivation and that kind of mind shift and stuff. And we've never gotten to the methods aspect, but still on that, how can we balance this? What's your thoughts on how we can balance this just to be able to make sure that we're able to keep ourselves going eventually? Yeah.
Okay, so I think the clinical practice will need the clinical knowledge for you to have. So when you are doing your clinical rotation, you shouldn't more segregate the knowledge you are obtaining as this clinical for departmental exams. Every patient that becomes your textbook. You are and how they are managing that particular patient. So understand what is going on or happening in the wards, and also you don't. You have to read your book and apply them during ward rounds and also during clinical meetings. So basically, you shouldn't more segregate it as clinical and also departmental. Understand whatever information you get, just understand how, and I think that will help you out.
All right, thank you so much. So I think it means from what you said, it's not about segregating it. It's a one-time thing. It's like you prepare for all the three at the same time. All right, very much noted. And then to the next question, it's more about your mental health. I'd like to hear from Miss Aidoo. How were you able to handle? I know there is going to be lots of pressure because already pharmacy school from level 100 to 400, 500 is already lots of pressure. So I'm sure 600 also has its own pressure, especially where you are, working towards two things at the same time. So how do you handle the pressure? How did you do it? So we want the step by step process of how you did it. How do you think the pressure can be handled? Basically, yeah, that's a question.
Okay, so first of all, if we talk about the pressure, everybody will face different kinds of pressure, right? Some people will take something that is very
Yeah.
little as like, I mean, I'm really under a lot of pressure. And for some people, even if the house was burning down, they'll still be calm. For mine, I would say we had more of a unique curriculum for our fifth year. It wasn't the regular curriculum as the other schools had. And so, first of all, we had to understand what
Okay.
we were even going to do in the facility in the first place. So, the first step was to
Mm-hmm.
understand what does the school require of us, right, for our different rotations. And then how do we best communicate this to our preceptors at the facility? Because that's not what they were used to. And for the hospital I went to International Maritime Hospital, where their first batch of like PharmD students. That were that many. So the next step was to how best to ensure that we are getting that training from the facility. That also took a while because we had to understand what rotations we were doing. For instance, we were doing institutional pharmacy as a rotation, medication therapy management as a rotation. So understanding it and then letting the preceptor know this is what the school requires of us. So those were the first two steps. And then the next step was committing to ensuring that you get your objectives met, whether the system
Mm-hmm.
like is making it possible for you or not. So in that instance, it is you make the push. You don't sit
Making
for the information to come to you. You go after it. So if you've come across a case and you don't understand something, there were house officers there. You make that initiative and ask them about it. Some of them would be busy, so they may not be able to make like that time for you. But you understanding that you want to get a better view, a better understanding of what goes on in the clinical field, you go to them with the questions, right? You can even sit together. So we sat together as a group to draw a schedule and then ran it by these house officers, and then they helped us, I mean, to go through the topics, to discuss and prepare for the exam. So first of all, understanding what is required of you, and then making sure that you
Mhm.
have that alignment in the facility that you are going to do your rotation, and then putting yourself um in that process so that you are getting the best out of it. Because at the end of the day, it's your journey. You are the one who is going to become a pharmacist. When a patient is standing in front of you, yeah, there are times when you might not know something. You can contact a mentor, contact somebody, a senior to help you. But then, really, most of the things you have to think on your feet and help the patient. So, how can I best commit to this journey so that I can be able to give the best to my patient? And then you should not feel down when you are struggling, when you don't understand something, you are there to learn. That's the first thing. So you have to make good use of it. There's a lot of pressure in that. Maybe you might be asked the question, you do a clinical presentation, and then the questions that are coming to you, I mean, you've not even heard of them before, because these questions they are asking you, sometimes you will not find them in the textbook, right? So they are things
Yeah.
that they know because they are on the field. Give yourself grace. They know it because they came to the field. You are just coming to the field, right? So give yourself some grace and then take it a day at a time. It is all right if you don't know today. But the problem is, if we told you today and you don't remember tomorrow, that's when you can put the pressure on yourself. So just give yourself the grace and then learn with time. Commit yourself to whatever you are studying so that you can end up becoming the best at what you do. So I would say those few things are the ways you can work through the pressure. Also, if you have a group, I mean, someone you can talk to. Sometimes you even need to have somebody you can just talk to, just rant to, and then have them calm you down when you feel overwhelmed. And one thing I realized
Okay.
is, on this journey, let's say we are all going to write GPPQ, everybody is under the same pressure. You cannot really go and put all your burden on another person who's also writing GPPQ. So this is where the whole, and when we go to school, we are told to network, to make friends with people who are even outside like our program of study. You have a friend who is doing psychology, you have a friend who is doing political science, like someone else who is on a different path. Sometimes they can offer you better assistance because they are not at that moment going through the same pressure as maybe a colleague who is doing pharmacy. You get it? So build that network so that you can get that support from people from diverse walks of life. So I think that's what I can say to this question.
Okay, I think even while you were explaining, something crossed my mind. I remember the first time we're having clinical rotations. There was this pressure, medical students were there and we were combined with pharmacy students. So there was this pressure. There was this pressure. And that was the first time I had a panic attack. Like at the moment, I had this panic attack because a lot was happening in front. There was a patient in front who was having serious complications. And then there was this environment around me and it was new to me as well. So I just dropped into this panic attack. I just found myself shaking. I felt like I was about to faint. Like the feeling was overwhelming. And
Mm,
so I think the pharmacist, our preceptor, was noticed what was happening. And then he was like, "What's happening?" And then I explained to him. So I think him coming in at that moment to be as compassionate, you know, seeing the seat I was in, it kind of like made me feel good. And he was like, "You just leave and go and again, relax and all." And I
mm,
sat down and did some self-talk. And seeing what the preceptor did for me made me feel good. And then the next day I was able to come in and then that was the start of it for me. So I think what you said is true. People, you know, being around us is one key factor. You giving yourself that self-talk is another key factor. So that is one point that is very, very important. And then I think now we've spoken a lot about the mindsets and the motivation bits, and I think we understand everything perfectly well. So moving on to the next question. The next question would be, what is one particular resource or yeah, okay, let me put it in a different way. There are countless textbooks and resources, and when you're in rotations, what particular resource do you really recommend? Preparing for your clinical rotations and clinical practice, as well as the particular resources should we be looking at here that will help us bridge that gap?
Oh, okay. For every there are particular textbooks. So, friends, you can say that this is the only textbook you'll be using throughout your journey. But regardless, you're supposed to have handbooks. So that's easy to like if you summarizes the various topics. So have handbooks. That's very important. And also ask to read or extensively, especially when you are competent and you need extensive reading. Those ones you have to read guidelines and also other textbooks, but I can't actually pinpoint a particular textbook you will read because there are so many books, equally good books there you can read at any time. So I can't pinpoint a particular textbook. But a situation in our GPPQE, we were asked to state the first line medication according to the STG. So what I would say is that no matter what you read, make sure that you look at the STG. That's what I would recommend.
Okay. And I think speaking about the STG, we put out the links initially asking students to send particular questions they would like you to answer. And before I even move on, I would like to say that to all those viewing or listening to us, if you have questions, please put them in the comment section. I would attend to them, and then you would get the answers to them here and right now. That's the difference between you and the person who will be watching the recorded version eventually. You get to ask your questions and get direct answers to them immediately. So please keep them coming. And speaking about the anonymous questions we received, one question we received was that, so it does a follow-up to Dr. Maxwell. Do I have to memorize the whole BNF and STG to prepare for the GPQE? So that was the question the person asked. So you bringing out this STG kind of like tallies with this question. So please, can we hear from you on this? Are you to memorize the whole BNF and STG just to prepare for GPQE and departmental exams?
Okay, not necessarily memorize. You have to understand because chew poor pass is not the best study method for any serious profession. So if you say memorize, well, but understand what you can read. That's the principle. Make sure that you. I don't think you can even read everything and put everything to memory, but make sure that you understand what you read.
So, Miss Aidoo, did you chew? Maxwell thinks that we shouldn't chew, but did you chew? We want to be sure, we want to hear from everybody's angle. Did you chew as well, or did you just understand, just like from Maxwell was saying? We want to be sure that we are getting the final say from all the pharmacists as much as possible. So please, what's your take on this?
I didn't chew. I mean, it's even difficult for me to chew things. I need to understand it. Yeah, so that's my method. I just understood it. I remember with the STG, there was one funny thing that used to happen anytime I picked the STG. So, you know how it starts with, let's say, the gastrointestinal conditions, so diarrhea, constipation, those things. So anytime I remember that, oh, why don't I make an attempt to chew the STG? I'll go back to diarrhea. I'll try and read the whole diarrhea, and then I'll forget about STG. I'll be studying. I mean, occasionally I come to it when, especially for the maternal topics, then I would come again another time, be like, I think maybe I should still attempt to memorize the STG. I'll start again, diarrhea, then I'll move to constipation. The whole time, those were the only two that I honestly chewed. The rest, I just like understood it and knew what the STG was saying. But I honestly didn't chew it. That's the honest truth. But by the grace of God, I don't know how it worked, but we had I think we had a question on constipation also in the exams. I don't know if that was grace at work, but the key is to understand it. The key is to understand, because the SDG is a guideline, right? Things can change, but when you understand the concept, when you understand what was the thinking behind even the definition of the condition, the risk factors, the medications that are used, then you can be able to adapt even when the trends change. So understand, first of all, that's the most important.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree with from Maxwell and from Aidoo, because at times I tell my students as much as possible that at times your breakthrough is not in that 10 hours you're sitting down to learn. Your breakthrough is in that one thing the lecturer or your preceptor is saying, and you just heard it, and then it came the exam. Or from Miss Aidoo's case, that particular thing that keeps ringing in your mind, read this, read this, read this. That might be actually where your breakthrough is. So I try to tell students as much as possible that just be ready at all times. Be ready at all times. During lectures, try to mop up as much as possible. Try to understand as much as possible. that helps you to build the understanding process of it all. So I think we are all on the same page on that. So please, the person who asked that question, please, you don't have to memorize, right? You just have to understand. Okay. And then moving on. So the next question I would like to also find out is, what is the best time to start studying, basically? Because from what you and from Maxwell has said, it's all about reading resources, doing your assignments and case studies. But when is the best time to start? Should I start reading when I have a case study? No, basically, let me not let me just put it as an open question. I think I'll start from Miss Aidoo and then we'll move on to Maxwell. So when is the best time to start? When did you start? And why do you think it's worked for you? When is the best time to start preparing for the GPQE and then the whole process entirely?
I'll say you asked two questions, because when is the best time to start and when I started. I don't know if when I started was the best time, but certainly from the lessons, there's a saying that like the best time you should have done anything was yesterday. The next best time is now.
Mm,
So as we are talking
mm,
about it and as we are thinking about it, start
okay.
preparing. So Maxwell did mention that any patient you meet, for instance, is like your test, is your exam. Because at the end of the day, it's a case
Mm,
study that you are going to meet on the GPPQE for the part two. And
okay.
it can be any real patient that you might have met on the ward. So take every opportunity as a learning stage, a learning opportunity for your exam or for your practice, right? So whichever stage you are now, if you are in fifth year going to start your rotation, start now. If you are in sixth year, start now. Wherever you are, start now. It might be that you are not preparing directly for the GPPQE. But for instance, if you have an exam tomorrow, an end of semester exam tomorrow, you are putting in your best to study for it. Indirectly, it is tying into preparing for GPPQE. Because if you do not pass this
Mm,
exam and move on to the next level, how do you get to write GPPQE, right? So start now. What
yeah.
is required of you currently? Put yourself to that goal, and aim at that goal, achieve it, move on to the next. So that's what I would say.
Okay. How about for Maxwell? Can we also hear from you on this particular question?
Uh, she's basically said almost everything. It starts now because hypertension, heart failure. You can start with the ones you already know
Okay.
because when you get to the rotation side, there's something. So the things you've done in school, you can revise on them so that you won't go there.
Okay. I think from Maxwell's audio was on and off, but generally what from Maxwell was trying to say is that you can start with the ones you already know and try revising on them. So when you start, you're just adding on and then you just continue from there. So start now, basically start now. I think that was also a question from an anonymous person. So please, the answer is start now. And then speaking about starting now and how to start now. At the end of this particular session, I'll be giving you particular tips on time mastery. These are tips that I've come to work on over 2 years experience on them. I'm a time mastery coach. I've worked with students, and I've come to understand that these are the particular things that have worked and I've also worked for me personally. So at the end of the video, I'll be sharing them with you on how to you can start now, as we've been told to, and then we'll continue from there. So stick with us. All right. I think we've spoken much about a lot of things, but Miss Aidoo, what do you think is one common pitfall? From your experience, you've been there, you've seen people. What do you think is one common pitfall to look out for? We're about stepping into that particular environment or into that particular period of our lives. What is one particular pitfall we should look out for that usually gets a lot of students, and how can we curtail it? Yeah.
Okay, so would this question be particularly for those who are moving into their rotations or those who are preparing for the exam?
Okay, so since we're trying to target both audience, let's start with those who have their exams just this year, and we'll move on to those who are moving on to their rotation.
Okay, so there will be a number of pitfalls, but the common one I would say, from my own experience, would be it's very easy to feel like you are behind, to feel like
Mm,
it's not going to work. And when you start thinking like that, then you are tempted to not like study as much as you actually could, or make that intentional effort to really cover the topics that you need to cover. This usually happens when you hear people like talk, right? For instance, when you have a group discussion on a particular topic,
mm,
someone may be sharing something they know, something they've learned, something someone has mentioned to them, and you may feel like, hey, I don't know this, I never knew this, I don't even have anybody who draws my attention to these things. And then you begin to
mm,
cower, you begin to shrink back, and instead of still going at your own pace and keeping that consistency, you just lose the drive. But that shouldn't be the case. The thing is, until you sit and write the exam, you have the opportunity to put in that effort. I remember last year when we had one of these sessions with some of our seniors, one of them mentioned that even if you have 2 weeks left and you decide to sit and prepare, you can pass the exam, right? Rather than saying it's 2 weeks, I've only mastered two topics, let me just give up. No, we don't go that way. Until you have sat and written the exam, you can always put in an effort that will make a change. So don't give up. It's very easy for you to feel like you are behind, especially when you try to compare yourself to others. Let people's journey motivate you, right? But don't let it make you feel
mm,
like you are inferior. So don't give up.
mm,
That's what I would say for those who are going to write the exam. For those who are going to start their
the
rotations,
clinical rotation.
yeah, it may look like you need to know a lot of things. It may look like too much is required of you, right? And
Charlie,
you may
yeah.
feel you are the worst student on earth. But remember, the preceptor who is even putting you on the hot seat was at a point where he didn't know what acetaminophen was. You know, it's time that has made the difference, and exposure and the training they've had. So you are at that point where you're also getting that training, right? So take it one day at a time. Take it one day at a time, and then make sure that you are learning. If you didn't know it yesterday, you came across it today, make sure you remember it tomorrow. But don't be too hard on yourself. So that's what I would say. Allow yourself to learn, allow yourself to grow, allow yourself to mature into that pharmacist you want to be.
I'm very, very much noted. And then speaking about the same pitfalls. Okay, I think I want to hear from Dr. Maxwell. So I think you left a bit, but we're on the topic of what's the common pitfall that students should look out for, both those who are writing their exams in the few coming weeks or months, and as well those who are going into their clinical rotations. What's one common pitfall you have noticed that you want every student under your voice right now to look out for and avoid? Just one of them, the most common.
Oh, okay. I think either some people through their pharmacy school they learned on their own. So when they got to set year two, they wanted to do all
Mm-hmm.
by themselves. So they isolated themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that in set year you're supposed to form effective study groups yourself. But that's one thing I almost everyone is supposed to have a group. Some people have more than one group. Some for questions only, some for topics and all those ones. So I think don't struggle alone. If you are struggling, try to seek for help. Yeah, that's one thing too. Another thing I want to mention is that don't learn some topics because your friends are learning them. You are reading, assuming you are reading malaria and you hear your SLE. That does not mean that stop your malaria and go and read the SLE. Maybe they are done with the malaria, so you have to focus, have your personal uh, topics you want to do, and to just adhere religiously to them. Thank you.
Okay. Well, it's very much noted. And I think in addition to that as well, I think there's both sides to the coin. Whilst we are also entreated to not give up even when it feels so much, I think it's also very much important that we are not complacent either. Because it's very easy for complacency to come in, especially if from the very beginning, you feel like you are on top of what you do comes to studying. And so you feel like, oh, this one I could do it too. And so it's very easy for complacency to start coming in. So while we try not to get discouraged or we try not to give up, another thing as well we can look out for is the complacency bit of it and starting from the word go. Okay, I think we're getting somewhere. And then the next question I would want to talk about is it was an anonymous question. So the person is asking that is there a particular um syllabus? The person used the word high yield area of the GPPQE syllabus that I should look out for while studying. So I think what the person is trying to say is that is there is there a marking scheme or is there a particular area that keeps coming every year that he or she should look out for? And so I think if there is something like that, it will benefit both those going into their clinical rotation. So they also prepare for this particular topics whilst they are in, they're preparing for the GPQ eventually. Before we go to that answer, I would like to acknowledge Pharm Dr. Michael Fordjour. He's in our midst. Welcome, Pharm Michael. Please can you hear us? Can you hear
Yes, I
me?
can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, we are happy to hear your voice. Okay, so based on the question we've asked, can we hear from Miss Aidoo first? And then we go to from Michael to tell us what he thinks and then move on from there. So please, Miss Aidoo, over to you. What do you think is the high yield area of the GPQ syllabus that we should all look out for, if there's any?
This one, the person wants us to go and meet with the examiners. But really, for the clinical rotations, so we used the
Okay.
one that Tech had. They had a list of topics to cover under each rotation. So
Okay.
that's what we used as a guide. But one thing I realized is that if you're really able to master the topics under internal medicine, you will be good to go. You're starting off on a
Mm-hmm.
good track. So the topics under internal medicine, cardio, hypertension, for instance. One thing about hypertension is that if you're able to master it, especially the drugs, you can be able to extend that knowledge. Let's say even when you are covering a topic like heart failure, when you are covering a topic like ACS, whatever cardiology topic you're covering, because you understand the drugs, how they work, their side effects, whether it is the ACE inhibitors, the beta blockers, the calcium channel blockers. When you're able to really understand those ones, you can apply them to the other topics. So I would say that if you focus on the internal medicine
Mm-hmm.
topics, understand them, right? If you are saying that obesity
Mm-hmm.
is a risk factor for diabetes, how is it a risk factor? Understand the why behind these topics, and then you can be able to say that you are starting, you have a good start. So for me, that's what I would say, but I am sure the rest of my panelists would also have something to add. So
Okay. So Dr. Maxwell, what do you think? What's the high yield topic we should all look out for when we are studying? Hello, Dr. Maxwell. Okay, I think it's having a bit of a network issue. As soon as he comes online, then we'd hear from him. And then while we are waiting for that, so from Michael, please welcome once again. So I think our first question I want to ask you first of all, we asked Miss Aidoo, and we also want to hear from you. So our first question is, how did you do it? basically, we want to know what's the secret. What is the secret for, we know that you were the overall top candidate for GPQE 2023. You are a role model to us all. How did you do it? What was your secret? Like, we want to know. That's the first thing we want to know.
Hello everyone. I'm so sorry. I was supposed to join this meeting around 3 o'clock, but then I had a conflicting meeting, so pardon me. And I'm excited to be here. I think Maame Adjoa, this is the first time I'm meeting you on the call, so congratulations, my deepest congratulations. I was supposed to reach out earlier, but I couldn't. I think it slipped my mind. But congratulations. I think you did very well for the 2024. Your batch is 2024, right?
Yeah.
Now also I'm missing the days. Yeah, but congratulations. Yeah, it's an enviable feat. So well done.
Thank you for taking the
Well done. And
bait.
then
We brought it together.
yes, and then to all the students here, congrats as well. Getting to fifth year or sixth year, it's no easy feat. Pharmacy as a 6-year course is hectic. So if you've gotten this far and you're preparing for your GPPQE, then good job so far. All the best in your upcoming exam as well. To your question, there's no secret. I don't know what my other, and then hello to my esteemed panelists as well, Dr. Maxwell, and then is it from Andrew? I don't know if he's still on the call, but then hello everyone.
Yeah, he will join us soon.
Okay, then that's fine. Well, there's no secret. I'm sure that's what they've all been saying or not. But
I've all been saying that
for
there's a
me,
secret.
I think yeah, so for me, I think it's doing the small things repeatedly or consistently for a long time, and then the source of sticks with you. If you are here so far, it means that you've been preparing for your exam, you've been passing your exam, and that's why you are here. So doing that consistently over a long period of time, the topic source of sticks with you, and then of course with God's help, you'll be fine. Yeah. I think one key factor for me is we had a group study. And so if you engage in a topic or you study a topic and you're able to communicate well to others, you're able to explain the topic well to others, then at the end of the day, by teaching others, you've reaffirmed the topic in yourself, and then it sort of sticks. Yeah, so I think what my first advice would be, whatever you are learning, find someone else to teach, find someone to talk to about. And so doing and doing so repeatedly, the topics will stick and you're in a better position to remember or recollect.
Right. Very much noted. And then still on from Dr. Michael, what do you think is one common pitfall we should all look out for as students? I think you've been there, you've seen other students do this. What's one common pitfall you would see everyone keep falling into and you would like to reveal to us so as we can avoid them on our path?
Yeah, I think in our local parlance, we will say pressure foul. You imagine the GPPQE to be so huge that when you sit in front of the paper, you are just, you don't know, it's not deliberate, but you are just messing up. I know very good colleagues of mine who fell victim to that, and it's sad. At the end of the day, we will commiserate with you, but then there's nothing we can do. So from now, just have it in your mind that it's like any other paper that you are going to write. Yes, it's your licential exam, but it's not the it's not even the ultimate exam that you write in your whole lifetime. It's just one small micro exam that you are writing at this point in your life. You may write bigger exams, you may do bigger stuff in future. So relax, especially on the day of the exam. For example, ours, we were supposed to shade in a different way as compared to the one we were doing in school. So I think for the first 10 minutes or so, they read the instructions repeatedly that we have to shade this way. But then I had a colleague who fell victim. She just started shading the normal way. And so she failed. She failed the exam, and it's all because at that time, at that stage, she felt overwhelmed. So keep in mind that you've been equipped for this exam since you started first year.
Mm.
Prepare yourself very well, but then on the day, relax, 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 relax. And then as you relax, you go through the instructions one after the other. Make sure you fully understand, and then just start question one. If you're able to do that, then you won't be overwhelmed. You won't make silly mistakes that may end up costing you. I think that's one pitfall out. There are many, but I think I was limited to one, so I'll stick to one.
The most common. Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
very
so
much.
for me, that's the most common. Yeah.
Okay, we've asked this question before, and we've heard from Miss Aidoo, we've heard from Dr. Maxwell. We also want to hear from you. It was an anonymous question. We're trying to debunk myths here because people have this kind of notion about being a success and what it takes to achieve a level of academic excellence. And the question was, did you memorize the whole do I have to memorize the whole BNF and STD to prepare for my exams? So to you, from Michael, did you memorize the entire BNF and STD when you're preparing for the GPQE exams or even your departmental exams in general?
Well, for me personally, I didn't. You see, we have everyone has his or her own capacity. If it's in your capacity to do that, then please do. Some people can memorize the entire thing, and that's fine. They don't feel pressured in any way. But if you are like me and reading just 10 slides will make you feel like your head is full, then don't go stress yourself. You do that, and then you holistically you have the entire thing in your head, but then when it comes to minute details about particular topics, you fall short. And in GPPQ, whether you be successful or not, comes down to these tiny details, these minute details. If they were to spread the results or give everyone his or her exam whatever back, you realize that the difference between the most successful candidates and the rest comes down to just minor details. A word here, a point here, a phrase there. But then basically what we all wrote, if of course if you are marked correct, it means you wrote the correct answer. But then the difference between a successful candidate, the one who becomes the best student, comes down to just minor details. Sometimes that you're able to recollect and then add so that yours becomes slightly different from the rest. I think that's what makes a difference. So yeah, if you can't, don't worry yourself. Do the smaller things that you are comfortable with. I always come back to that point. For example, what I was doing was I followed some medical so I say influencers on Twitter. So they were posting a topic. They'll pick just a topic and then just write something brief about it. They'll put, let's say, a drug, write some minor details about it on Twitter. So every day when I wake up, I check just one message from that influencer, and it will be the starting point of my day. It's just a minor detail, but I did it consistently. And lo and behold, some of the questions that came, I was able to recollect, not because I learned it from the BNF, not because I studied the entire slides, but it's because I've seen it somewhere. I've met it somewhere, and I've been exposed to it. So if you are someone like, let's say, a social media person, you end up spending most of your entire day on social media, you can't stop. That's your way of life. Don't try to copy someone who can learn the whole day. If that's your, let's say, the spectrum that you fall in, do what you can there. So make use of the social media. If you are someone who has to work daily at a community pharmacy to support yourself in order to prepare, don't try to change that within the short time and then become someone who is learning the entire day. In that community pharmacy, there are drugs there. Do what you can there and do it consistently. And you realize you'll be surprised that will be the difference between you and then someone who may unfortunately not pass. But
This is okay. Please
oh
go
yeah, I was
on,
saying
Farm
back to
Michael.
you. Oh no, Victory, I was
Oh,
saying back
okay.
to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I think basically this is similar to what Dr. Maxwell said, what Miss Aidoo said. They didn't memorize either was all about understanding and paying attention to the simple details. When your mind tells you to do this, you're just following your gut. You're paying attention to that particular lecturer that's just or precept that is just in front of you at that moment, and you just want to get as much as possible from him. So I think this further debunks that myth that you need to chew or memorize the entire BNF. And even when you were speaking, I got to remember a particular anecdote. I came across a research one time by Dr. Wendy, and in that research, she found out that A students, when I say A students, I mean the students that are perceived to be the best students, they sleep more than those who were perceived to be the B students and the C students. And so everyone was like, so I think the point she was trying to make was that, being good at what you do is not about doing the extraordinary or about putting, stretching yourself beyond your capability, but it's about doing that particular thing, like you said, sticking to the details and paying attention to those details. And so I think that brings me to my next question. About we know we need to study, we know studying is important and all, but what is that one non-negotiable method aside studying that you say that also sustained your focus and your success? Was it could be exercise, sleep, aside studying? What is that one thing non-negotiable that I can say was one of the reasons why you're able to have a sustained focus and success? I think I'll first want to hear from Miss Aidoo, then we'll go to Maxwell, and then we'll come back to Michael. So please, Miss Aidoo, let me hear your take on this. What is beyond studying? What was that one thing for you?
Me, to be prayer. Because
Age.
I mean that's where I draw
Okay.
my strength, Your
Okay.
mind can really be playing games on you, but when you go back to God, what He has said to you, and remind yourself of the promises that He's made to you. I remember when we were almost getting closer to the exam, there was one particular verse that I believe God gave me, and anytime I fell down, I'll just recite it, right? So I used to do that, and I had this song too, by one Nigerian artist. It says "Dry Bones Come Alive." My roommate and I, whenever we felt like the thing we were learning it wasn't going, we just played that song. Any dry bones must come alive. So because I'm a Christian, that was the one non-negotiable thing for me. I knew that I wouldn't be able to do it by my strength,
Okay.
so that's what I would say did it for me.
Okay. And then for Maxwell, can we hear from you on this? What is that one non-negotiable thing aside studying that you'd say students could overlook, but it's one thing that is non-negotiable and contributed to your success and focus eventually? For Maxwell, I think we can't hear you.
Can you hear me
Hello, for
now?
Maxwell, are you with us? Yeah, we can hear you
Yes,
now.
please. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Prayer. I also wanted to say Bible study. But I think different people and they want. So
Yourself.
if you are a guy and you love football, a guy and you want football, just when you feel tired, just go and watch football. If you are a
Okay.
guy and you love movies, just watch them. But make sure that you don't lose
Then
focus.
if we don't love football, what do we do? We the ladies, what should we do?
Play and pay.
Okay, I think we lost her. Okay.
Oh, you can cook. My roommate and I actually had like a whole menu. So we had the
Oh,
topics
okay.
for the day, and we had the food for the day. So we were also cooking. That's how we
Oh,
relax.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, so we should play Ampe, we should cook. Okay, we should play football as well. Very much noted. Very much noted. We will turn into cooks and football players just for this. Don't worry. And then from Michael, please, what do you also say? We should do what? What was that non-negotiable thing for
Of
you?
course, the things you've mentioned, I think they are things that I love to do. So I think, but I will have to say something else. So yeah,
Okay.
I like what Miss Aidoo, right, was saying about what you love to do
Mm.
it. So if you are someone who is a fan of anything that helps you relax, do it. But then what I will say is that in the process of doing it, see if you can introduce some educational content to it so that passively you'll be picking up on something. So let's say you are cooking. Whilst cooking, is there, let's say, a recording? Is there a YouTube video that you can listen to in the background? Because learning is done both actively and passively. So whilst
Mm.
doing the things that you have, is there an educational way you can pick up on a few things passively? Um, so what I used to do was I had recordings of these Indian guys. They've been very helpful. So I had lots of recordings on them. But then I was very busy. I was working at the time I was preparing for the GPPQE. So what I'll do is even whilst I work, I'll have one earpiece on and in my ear, and then I'll be listening to the recording. Of course, I'll be busy. I may not be focused, but I realized that passively I was picking up on some few details and
Mm.
nuances that I may have missed
Mm.
even if I was studying actively. Yeah, so try
Mm.
doing that. Like I said earlier, if you are someone who, as soon as you wake up, you have to go on Twitter, you have to go on Instagram. You have just 2 months. You can't change that lifestyle. So what you can do
Mm.
is follow some of these things. There's Net Twitter, there's Classify RX, there are lots of them. And you see it's an
Mm.
algorithm. The things that you are looking at, it keeps popping up.
Working, yeah.
So
Yeah.
you follow them every morning, just click on their page, look at something interesting that they've posted. And then very soon you realize that the things that you are doing as being addicted to your phone, being a social media person, you realize that yes, you are still a social media person, but then you are learning, and that's the space that you are comfortable in. So you absorb more. So try
Mm.
doing that. Inculcate some education aspects into whatever helps you relax, and then you can learn passively as you go about your day.
Right. So it's about so to 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 put some weight on what you said, it's about studying both consciously and subconsciously. You don't have to just sit down and have a book in front of you before you can study. Very, very much noted for the my lists. Final question for all that are guests here with us today. And my question is,
I think the network issues is coming from her side, right? Or it's mine?
Yeah, I can hear you. So I
Okay,
think we
okay.
have
Then
to
I
wait
think
for her.
it's from here. It's from here. Yeah.
Please, can you hear me? I think I had a bit of a glitch there. Dr.
Yeah.
Maxwell, please, are you here? Yeah,
Yeah.
please. So I was asking, I had a bit of an internet issue, but my question was, if you could go back, what is one thing you'd love to change or do better? Okay. Maxwell, are you there? Okay, I
Hello.
think he has. He also has. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. He's
yeah,
here. Please, you get the question.
yeah. No, please. Can you repeat the question?
Okay. All right. So my question was, if you could go back in time, right, to the particular level we are right now, either you have your exams this year, I mean your GPQ and your departmental exams this year, or you are stepping into your clinical rotations to have yours next year, either of the scenarios, what is one thing you wish, if you could go back in time, you would love to do better or you would change, basically?
I think I will solve more past questions and practical questions. That's the one thing I'm supposed to. I would have changed. I will solve more questions.
You brought up something very interesting. So these past questions, how do we get them? Basically, is it readily available, or is it something that we need extra effort to acquire?
Yes, they are readily available.
Okay,
Oh no, they are available.
okay, all right. So you would prefer to
There
solve
is
more past.
Blue Book. There are so yes, please. They are readily
Okay,
available.
all right. And then for Miss Aidoo, what would be yours? What is one thing you wish you could have done better or changed?
For me, if it was from fifth year going to sixth year, I would have stayed on campus because I went back home. Outside of campus life, and I went back home. So I chose a hospital that was closer to home. But I would have stayed on campus, so it was easier to. I mean, I didn't so that I wouldn't have to do online group studies because there was a lot of stress with that. So that's one thing I would have done differently. And then for
Mm,
fifth year preparing for the exam, I would have documented every day. That's one thing I would have done differently to just
okay.
look back and then see how the journey
Mm,
actually was and have people also see that it wasn't like a perfect journey throughout, but with consistency you can achieve your goal. So that's one thing I would have done differently.
okay, all right. And so, to Sir Michael, please, what's your take on this? What is one thing you wish you could go back to change or do better?
I'll help others more. I think I did my best. I think I we had a group study like I was saying, so there are some topics that I had to help others with. But I think I would have done more. I've done more. It's
Mm,
very easy for us to focus on ourselves, but towards the end, even when the results come, even if you are the best, your celebrations will still be mad if a friend or someone that you care about doesn't graduate or doesn't pass. And I think looking back, you can always do more. And I think that's one advice that I will give to others now, that do as much as you can to help others as much as you are helping yourself. And by so doing, I think selfishly, you'll be helping yourself as well. So if you want to really help yourself, help others. This is just a microcosm in the grand scheme of things. By the end, you realize that by helping others, you've done more and you've helped yourself as well.
right. Thank you very much. Okay, and then to my final question. This is my final question, and then start thinking of rounding up. And please, if you still have questions, please keep them coming. The question is that what is your most on the internet? We have so many study methods. I think so far we've also heard we've heard of some of them whilst we're having our discussion. We've heard of the active studying and passive studying. That's one of them. But there are so many study methods on the internet, and so many of them you hear people talk about flashcards, where you should have flashcards while studying. There are lots of things you hear people say. But what is one study method you think was efficient for you? And when you tell us about your study method, do you have a study plan? And if you did, it's like a two-in-one question. So your study method, you have a study plan, and if you did, what was it looking like? Like, please give us the starting point. Give us your study plan so that we can plan ours from there. Give us a scaffold so we can start planning ours from there. So I think we'll start with Dr. Maxwell first, and then we move on to Pharm Michael. We come to Miss Aidoo, and then we continue from there. So please, Dr. Maxwell, save us, help us here. What was your study method? What was your study plan? How did you do it?
Okay, so I think we had a steady group. So you learn, we will share the topic. Maybe we're doing about 3 topics. So I have to in cardiology. So you do hypertension, heart failure, and maybe ACS. So I will have hypertension, make a summary of it, and when we come, we more of you teach your colleagues what you read, and they also chip in 1 or 2 things. So I think I use group more, and but still it's all still goes read before you come. You don't come to study group. You read before you come. So it was more like, and you come and help others, and you make your own summary so that you can actually explain things to your colleagues. That was the study method I was using. I think that was the question. Was there
Okay.
another question I'm supposed to attempt to answer?
Yeah. Yeah, and then do you have a study plan? How did you do it for the entire year? What was your study plan like? Well, just kind of like a scaffold we can work with, not really with the specifics, but kind of like a
Oh,
scaffold.
okay. So the topics we were to study for internal medicine a lot. So and luckily for me, I did internal medicine as my last rotation. So I started with the internal topics. While I'm doing the other rotation, I did some of the other internal topics. So if I'm doing maternal, when I finish my maternal topics, I know that 42 or 45 internal topics, I can't finish them when I was the internal medicine. So I started very early. So the ones which I was very familiar with, then did also new to me when I was getting closer to the internal medicine rotation. So it was more like most of the questions would be more of the internal medicine topic. So I started that one while I was doing the other rotation. I was doing the internal medicine topics alongside.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you very much. And then Michael, please come hear from you. What was your study method? Do you have one? Of course, aside what you've mentioned about the passive studying, did you have any other study method? Do you have a study plan? What was the general scaffold of it?
All right, so I think I'll agree with Dr. Maxwell on this. Um, of course, you can't be dogmatic about it. You can't say steady group is the way to go. But for me, it was super, super helpful. Super, super helpful. Yeah,
Okay.
so I agree with what he has said so far. I think one other thing will be there's this exam that they write in the US called NAPLEX. So they have a prep book called RX Prep. That book is super, super helpful. Um, they made it in such a way that you can quickly learn a topic, fully grasp the concepts, and then it won't take you so much time. So if you've not seen or heard about the RX Prep, then I'm introducing it to you now. Take a look at it. You can read the topics. It's not so complex, it's very easy to understand. So I think it helped me as a study material. And then as an additional tool, they have a study planner on the RX Prep site. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if I have the power to share my screen.
Oh
Yeah,
yes, you really do have the power to share it.
okay. So if you can see my screen, this is it. So I don't know how long you have to the exam, but then they have a 3 month study plan, they have a 6 months, and then a 12 months. So you can it's just an Excel sheet that they've designed. So if you have like let's say 3 months, then you can
Mm-hmm.
download and then this is what will come up for you. So they have the topics that you have to do every day So I think I have to share that as well. Give me a minute. Yeah. So yeah, then let's share this. Yeah, so this is a 3-month study planner from Naplex. And you realize that it's grouped per month and then per day as well. So what you study from Monday to Friday, it has periods that you can rest and catch up. This is for someone who feels like they've not learned anything at all. So within these 3 months, you can use
Okay.
this. The 1 year one has lots of time that you can catch up, and it has lots of time that you can fix questions in. And then, last but not the least, we are in the power, like we are in a different world as compared to like 10, 15 years ago. Now we have AI. So instead of using AI to
Mm.
just plagiarize or just to generate essays and then responses or answers to questions as a way of cheating, we can actually make AI very useful.
Assignments.
Yeah. So you can just pick a topic, like let's say you've learned diabetes, then you can say you have to learn how to prompt. We don't have time to go through that. But I can prompt the AI that give me 50 questions, give me 50 pharmacy questions in the Ghanaian pharmacy contest. If you are a licentiate pharmacy exam, something like that on diabetes, it would
Mm.
generate
Okay.
amazing ABC or MCQ questions that you've not even thought of for a particular question. Like Solomon
Mm.
said, there's nothing new under the sun. There are questions that you think it will be coming. Someone has asked this somewhere in a particular exam a long time ago. So you can ask the AI to do that for every topic that you learn. So, for example, diabetes, it gives you 50 questions. You attempt, you get some wrong. Then you ask the AI to explain the answers, why they think this is wrong, why they think this is right. If you do that once a week, look at the number of questions that you have solved. I heard
Mm.
on the grapevine that yours will be entirely MCQs. I'm not so sure if it's true or not. I'm not here to give any misinformation. But then if it's purely MCQs, then I promise this is the best way to go. Ask the AI to generate questions on every topic for you. You become exposed to so many questions, so many answers. It will blow your mind. And the explanations behind those answers, so that even if the same questions don't drop, you don't have to
Mm.
worry. Yeah.
Very much noted. Thank you so much, Michael. And then over to Miss Aidoo. Please tell us your secret one. Tell us all about your secret one. What was your study method, study plan? How did you do it?
Also, I also came across the Naplex study planner, so I was glad when he shared it. The 6 month. I started with the
Okay.
6 month, but I mean, I veered off course and was doing my own plan. But towards the end, I used the 3 month planner. So one thing that I found helpful was when you have the list and then you study and you're able to cross through, like I'm done with this, so I've covered at least a good majority of the subtopics under this. It makes you see that you're making progress. So that's what I did as I study. I crossed them out. But I also realized that studying was not the way to go. You can't just read, and then tell yourself that you know the thing. You have to test yourself. So just like for Michael was saying that you could use the AI. Yes, my group and I used AI a lot. The StudyFit app to by from Andrew, but he's not yet here. I'm sure he would take us through. Also has that function where you haven't put in the STG and ask it to generate questions for you. So those apps are there that you can use to study. But my study group, we use the pharmacy case studies. So that was to prepare specifically for the subjective part of the exam. So if you are going to write the subjective part, that's a good book that would also help in addition to the NAPLEX that has already been spoken about. So with the pharmacy case studies, it's already in topics. So before we come for the group study, we know that today we are looking at diabetes. We read the case, and each person takes one question. So it goes round. So it's like a round circle answer. Then we share our thoughts on it. What we also learned from the facilities we were doing our internships at. So that also helped greatly. And then there was also a book by some house officers. It's called Max's Family Bible. So that one is fully objectives for the different clinical rotations. They are based on topics. So if today you learn hypertension, you can just open that document, try answering all the questions in hypertension. Just test yourself if you really, really know what you need to know under hypertension. So that was the plan that I was using. The NAPLEX study planner had a list, and then as I read was crossing them out, and then make sure I was always testing myself. And then the group study too was used mainly for having those discussions with regards to the questions and the pharmacy case studies. So that was it for me. I mean, there were other things too, right? I like to. I'm a visual audiovisual learner too, so there were podcasts that I'll just listen to, like was being said when I'm not doing anything. I'll just be listening to them. There's this creative on YouTube, Memory Farm. So they do some YouTube shorts. Maybe they can take a drug and find a nice mnemonic just so you can learn the side effects. So when you are just being lazy, feeling lazy to learn, you can even just go on YouTube, search for Memory Farm, just watch some of their videos. Those things help. It will also stick as well. If you have access to the Classify RX app, they put together very good mnemonics. You don't have to now go through all the stress of putting together mnemonics for drugs, examples, classes, and side effects. So those things are some of the things that I did that were helpful.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. So I think we've had a very what's the word? The word I'm looking for, something huge. We've had an amazing discussion. That's not the word I wanted, but it will replace it. And I think whilst we're having a discussion, I saw Dr. Bex come in, Dr. Jonas Berkai come in. If you are online, please say hi. Dr. Jonas, are you here? Okay, so whilst we are waiting for him, so to give a brief summary of everything that we've spoken today, and from the onset, we mentioned that we're following the model of time mastery, where we talk about the mindset towards the goal you need to achieve, the motivation you need to achieve that goal, and then the methods. And our speakers have taken us through a lot of them. So we started from the mindset shift. And so it's important that any limiting belief you have about yourself, whether it is that you won't do well, or you can't do it, or you give up, whatever limiting belief it is, it's time to take it out, because your mindset is one key factor that will determine your success in this. And then once you move on, then we move on to then the methods. So from what everything our speakers have said so far, it means that being intentional, it's quite very much important. Starting now and being intentional about it. So you thank God for the planner that we've been given. So you can go on Naplex, get the planner, and then that helps you know what you're about every single week. So every single week you work on the particular topics, and then you start working on that from there. And then the study, I think I don't want to say much, but passive studying, active studying, group studies is one thing that everybody also emphasizes quite well on. So you can also pay attention to that. And then lastly, what I also want to emphasize on, because one thing I've experienced from my years of experience as a time mastery coach, one thing I keep seeing that students make a lot of mistake with is that we forget to review our progress. And reviewing your progress is one thing that can motivate you, because if you can look through and be like, oh, today, this week, I plan to do this, and at the end of the week, I did it. I'm able to take the checkbox for that thing. It motivates you so much to move over and do better, even in the next week. So it's important you review. So you have your plan every week. This is what I want to do. Put checkboxes attached to them, so that when you achieve them, you take. That's enough. That taking gives you that dopamine rush you need to keep you motivated to continue studying, to continue putting in the effort, and to continue being your best. And then before we round up, I also like to talk about distractions. So from everything our speakers have said, it means that your study sessions are very much important and you need as much focus as possible while studying so that you can be able to understand what you need to understand. And so one thing that I see students face a lot is distractions, our inability to put our phones away, our inability to shut notifications out when we need to, and our inability to, shut out interruptions from people. But I would like to emphasize on the phone notifications, and if that's a distraction for you, then you should consider setting up what we call the focus mode on your phone. So to do that is quite simple. All you need to do is go to your phone settings, whether you are using Android or an iPhone. If you're using an Android, just search for digital well-being. And if you are using an iPhone, search for screen time. Now, when this comes in, just search for focus mode on either of them. What the focus mode does is that it helps you to control notifications and phone distractions during your study period. So you can set up this focus mode for particular times or particular durations where you intend to have your study sessions. Now, once you're able to set it up, automatically, once it's that time, phone notifications for particular apps just won't show up. The apps automatically will shut down. So I think that is one way that you could, put in effort to putting out your distractions so that you can have all the steady focus you need. As soon as you are done with the study session, the whole your notifications and everything will come back again. So that is as simple as it is. So I highly recommend the focus mode. That's what I use, and I recommend it to so many students, and it's been working for them. And if that's one situation or challenge you are facing, then you can work on it too. So I think we've come to the end of the program, and I am so grateful to our panelists, as speakers, for making the time to be here with us today. It's an honor, it's a pleasure. In fact, I don't know what to say. Thank you for pouring out into our lives, and we know that we'll yield the fruits eventually. I also want to say a big thank you to everyone that supported me in the organizing of this program. You all have been amazing. We put out a last-minute message asking for 50 subscribers minimum, and it was so amazing to see the turn up. I am so grateful, and God richly bless you. So please, if you have questions, it's not the end of it. You can send the messages to whoever. Just make sure it gets to us, and either ways, you would get the answers to them. So keep being amazing, and see you. Thank you so much.